And I'm your moderator. I'm Prashant. I started RenderWolf with the goal of bringing AI to games. Our focus right now is on AI for art, but really, we want to play a small role in taking AI where it goes through the medium of games. Okay, so let's kick things off. I think one very interesting question when you think about AI is, yeah, the tech is here, but why do we want to use it? And so I want to ask you guys, what was your motivation for thinking about AI for games? We'll start with, Oliver, if you want to start, go for it.
Ours is an easy answer, like as an indie game developer. Like our strategy has always been to build a kick-ass game team in India that can compete globally, right? But you'll very quickly realize following that strategy that the quality globally is really, really high, and maybe you need to do that with fewer resources. So, we'll leverage every single opportunity we can get. And even if it is nascent, we'll hack it, we'll try and make it work. And that's what we've been doing for the last sort of 2 years.
So it's almost like with the resources you have, you want to meet a quality bar that's always been hard, and you're using AI to do that.
Yeah, we're trying to get an unfair advantage somehow, however way we can.
Yeah, makes sense. Shrungar.
So I'd like to tell you a story of how it started.
Let's hear it.
2020, thank you. 2022, I was sitting in a class, business studies. I was doing my executive, and I came across a case study on Harris, the casino. I think a very interesting case study, and they utilized ML to elevate their experience, which kind of got me thinking of how can we take advantage of it. So it never started from the Gen AI perspective, but it started with an ability to think a bit more broader. So is it possible for us to neutralize execution so that we as humans can really go forward and think in terms of cognitive abilities? So I truly believe that with the whole industrial approach that we have of game development or whatever it is, we really miss out on using our thinking and taking advantage of really what we can add to. I think that is what caught my attention. So how can we really take away the execution and really be able to take decisions to excel our game experience?
Makes sense, yeah. So like let AI do the mundane, the boring, and free up
One way
humans
to look
for,
at it, yes.
free up human beings for the more creative tasks. Yeah, no, absolutely.
That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to have Mr. Wilhelm to support the resources. And from then, almost 2 years, and now we have really dived into the strategies of this. So.
Yeah, no, makes sense. It sounds like it was a worthy use case, which is why you got the support you needed as well.
Yeah, also I grayed my hair during that pitches, so yeah.
Gayatri, how about you? What at YesGnome led you to think, yeah, let's look at AI?
Yeah, so the main motivation for us to try AI tools is to basically speed up our production cycles and get our prototypes out faster. So think of it like you're cooking a big feast for a large crowd. If you have to do it everything by hand, then it can quickly get tiring and difficult. So AI tools are like kitchen appliances that do chopping, prepping, and all these things, whereas you can focus on flavoring or perfecting the flavors. So for us, typically a project that takes a couple of months or more, we managed to get the prototypes out within 2.5 weeks. So the creativity and basically the AI tools that brought us more asset creation and in terms of efficiency and speed, that's a game changer for us. The content that we need, and basically some of the games require a lot of content to be generated.
Yep.
So that is where we have used AI, and that motivated us.
Makes sense. It sounds like you've used it both to speed up execution, but also creativity in some amounts.
Right.
And I think I'm getting that theme from all of you. So it's very much to speed up execution, yes, but it's also aiding, or like it's like a cognitive crutch, where like it's helping creative people be even more creative, using tools like this. And Gayatri, I'll actually continue with you there. So it sounds like you found it to be a good fit for the problems you were facing. And I know in our conversations you mentioned that you've also shipped some content in your games so far. Using like a variety of tools. So what specific, like if you can give a couple of examples of which tool solved which problem for you.
Sure. So, couple of examples if I have to name. So, first thing is for one of our conversational AI platform that required hundreds of character images with various expressions and poses. If you have to do that manually, again, it would get very overwhelming and time taking. Like you fill a bucket with a small spoon, and that will take forever. So for that, we have used tools like Midjourney and DALI. We have cut down the production time by 80% there.
Wow.
Like these AI tools acted as like extra hands that never get tired. For one of our other project, VR Vision Pro, that required high quality 3D models and animations. For that project, we used Deep Motion AI and Real Player Me, and it actually speed our process very much. So to summarize, basically, I could say these AI tools, reduces long production cycles, minimize the repetitive work, and expand our creative progress.
Makes sense. So, and you're just still using generic text-to-image tools, right? And that even they are helping you sort of cut down production times. Oliver, I think you had a similar experience using some of those tools that Gayatri mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, we've used, like, particularly with art generation, it's made sense for on the advertising side as well. I think in addition to this, so like we are trying to figure out the style of our game, so we'll optimize by like creating 100 different styles of the same scene, and then seeing what gets the best click-throughs, and then going with that. It makes the decision-making process a lot more data-driven than sort of sitting around umming and ahhing about what may or may not work. And yeah, like in terms of content, so that's just but in terms of content. Yeah, we've implemented, like one of our games, Blockheads has like a linear story. So we had this problem of having like a 2-person art team, but we had to make enough content for about 180 days. And players who really love your game would like just blitz through the content. So we really just, there was no other choice. Like we have to use AI, and because we don't want to invest in building our own AI tools, we used whatever was off the shelf. So that was Midjourney. Like Midjourney worked the best because it was just more customizable. Like generating a 512 by 512 image doesn't help anybody really in gaming. Like it does, the utility is less, I guess. Sorry, Prashant never told me to name drop, but RenderWolf also helped in this regard, that tool, because it was more tailor-made to like our characters and our game style, which was the main problem with Midjourney. You kind of had to prompt it with text, which was a bit problematic when you have an art team that is a bit more visually inclined. And now it's like, now you have to ask Midjourney nicely to make your art style. It's kind of not very intuitive. Yeah, right. I think maybe we can touch more on that later. But it was a lot better in terms of getting Midjourney's better at like what aspect ratio do you want? Do you want to change this particular segment? So there's infill and yeah, and it was just, you can also choose like image references. You can upload your kind of references, so you can get sort of some consistency in what you were generating. So right. By and large, that was the best one for us for making like maps mainly, and sort of, if you can imagine a storybook, like storybook images with consistency of characters. Yeah,
I mean, so taking a step back for the audience here as well. So you have different flavors of these tools, right? So the most basic version of it is you describe what image you want to make, and the AI makes the image. But then there are more advanced use cases or workflows where you can actually give it a reference image, or you can give it a style, and then it tries to draw things in those styles. I think some of the things Oliver was touching upon was how over time they were able to use some of those features to actually get closer to the output.
Yeah, but you really have to hack those off-the-shelf tools. Like to get the style you want, you have to learn the language that it wants to hear. So you can use this thing called reverse prompting, where you upload an image and it describes the image for you, and then you learn how the machine reads the image, and you can use that to then prompt it to create more similar images. So, but that can't be the most efficient way, but
what works?
It works for now. Yeah.
I think for us, we understood that there's a change of behavior coming in play. That means that before generative AI, how many people typed for some answers? And I've been an artist, and how many artists have really typed for creating an image? So we knew for sure that whatever we work on has to be easy for the usage. It needs to be integrated in the existing workflow, and it needs to be relevant. That's the reason we chose the complex tool called Stable Diffusion. But what we did was we really researched and started training our own models. And because we were not getting funding then, we created a bot that will replicate Midjourney's abilities while connecting it to Stable Diffusion so that our artists can use that.
Right.
And even before DALI, right, we injected natural language prompting so that just ask for it. So you're naturally talking to this bot while connecting to a relevant model that isn't trained, and those were horrible, to be really frank then. And then getting at, because for us, more than the tool, it was building confidence of the team.
Right.
Because tool itself will not have an impact. You will have, let's say there are 100 people, 2 of them or 3 of them will be comfortable or curious to do this. But what about the others?
Yeah.
So we went a bit complex before, but then our strategy was to simplify it for the actual production and the adaptation of these tools. Right. So
Right. So you guys touched upon a couple of different things because you're so familiar with this. So you're just like,
I hope that was.
No, yeah. I wanted to do a quick audience check as well. How many of you here have heard of DALI? Okay, not surprising.
We're good.
How about Midjourney? Oh, wow. Okay, that's all right. Stable diffusion. Okay. We have a really knowledgeable audience.
Now
today.
we don't use it, by the way, but yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's go deeper.
So they're probably like, okay, you guys haven't told us anything new so far. So if you caught what they were saying, right? I think it sounds like for some teams, Midjourney is doing the job, right? They're able to prompt it, upload a couple of reference images, and generate art that they're able to use in their game. And then there are other teams which are saying, no, we need to train our own custom AI models. And so that's sort of where some of these open source tools like Stable Diffusion are proving to be a lot more flexible.
You can train your models on that. That's the reason it is easier, because Midjourney and DALI would not allow you that. It is much more easy. So I'm talking about 2023 March, when the internet was flooded with no AI icons, and the amount of hate I have received then was insane. But we knew that if we do not research on that, whether we apply that is later, but we have to take it as an opportunity and as a threat, and then strategize of if that blows up, how would our team survive, or how would the industry survive, or how would we adapt?
Yeah, and I think you make a great point, right? Like the whole point of training the models is, it's almost like having an additional team member, right? Like you're teaching this new member like what your art style is like. And that's what you seem to have done, and Oliver, you guys, and Gayatri, for sure, you have done it with your different games, including Conversations and VR. And I think that leads to a question which some of you touched upon just now, which is artists have to get used to a new way now, in addition to what they were already doing, of generating art. So whereas previously they were visually, like they would visually communicate with the tools to draw what they want, now they need to use text and natural language as well. I think my question to you guys is, like, what challenges did you notice as your teams and your artists have tried to use some of these tools? Was it the interface, or like was it the quality? We can start, like we can pick up from you Shrungar, and then we can come to the others.
I think it's all at once, I would say, because we are talking about change of behavior. We are talking about a disruption which is changing the way you look at the world, um, then how do you really strategize for this? How do you make sure that how do you make sure that artists do not feel threatened by this? Um, because threat is the first thing that we react to. So the best way that we identified, and then again I told you, whatever tools that we have created is more of a bridge tool, but it does not have the full capabilities. But the idea was always to integrate in their existing workflows. You cannot put an alien workflow or a tool in front of them and hope that it will work. It is not going to happen. Because first of all, they don't know how to use the tool. They are highly dependent on their predictability. They can predict if, let's say, if I'm an artist, if I have a task, I need to use a new tool which might take 2 hours, but I have a day. But I know for sure that if I go traditionally, I'll be done within a day. So, and these are not artists who are trying to explore or curious sitting home.
They're trying to get work done.
We are getting work done. So that's a
Right.
different temperament. So you have to think of the client as not the end, but the mean. And who are the mean? The artists. So you have to build these tools or custom this tool so that it fits the artist's temperament and the existing workflow.
Yep. Well, like, has that been your experience as well, Gayatri? Like how, so artists have an existing workflow, a way they do things, right? Or everyone on a game team, not just artists. And then you're introducing this new paradigm. Like what was your team's experience with that? How did they react? What has been the...
So basically getting our team to use AI was an adventure in itself for us. So we, instead of formal training and all, we encourage more hands-on approach. Like you learn to use a new gadget at home, you pick it up, experiment it, and share it with everyone. Similarly, we all took some small courses or big courses, whatever it is, and we explored different tools. And discovered various ways to get the things done. As we keep doing, we learned many things. Initially, some of the team members were hesitant and worried as well, like, okay, this AI might replace our work or these things. But one of my mentor, he shared an analogy. I would like to share that. So AI is like a powerful horse, and your work is the cart. A horse can do a lot of work, but it needs someone's skill to guide it. So AI can enhance your work, but not replace them. AI itself will not replace, but the one who knows AI might replace. So this actually, motivated every one of us to adapt and, learn.
Yeah, it's a companion is kind of how you guys are seeing it, basically.
Can I add to that? So there's also I think there's a miscommunication, I would say, where when we talk about, let's just be specific to art. How many are artists by any chance? Like, super, yeah. So, of course. People who are not artists also, they will relate to this. End of the day, when we are ICs, we will go with a couple of options to our managers or leaders. And they choose. What do? They make a decision. So this is the analogy that I gave to my team when I was an art director. You have an opportunity to become an art director. That's basically how I see it. Because what AI is doing is not being creative, but giving you multiple hypotheses, which you can choose from, which is better for the product and the customers. If you look at it from that lens, right, the whole phenomena changes where it is taking creativity, it is taking job and all. Look at it from a perspective where you get to decide. And with this ability, you are more connected to the users so that you provide a better experience. That's how at least I see it.
What's a good, I'll put you on the spot here. Pick an asset or an image that you made recently or someone on your team.
I did not make, I came out of art very long.
Sure, so someone that you know. Like, okay. What's a good example of how, a good workflow with AI? This is for all of you, but
so
yeah.
It also depends on what are you working on. Are you working on concept? Are you working on in-game art?
Let's say it's an in-game asset.
In-game asset, so as we spoke about it, it needs to be integrated. So ideally, if you have a trained model, because only prompting will not get you there.
Why is that?
If you have a live game, if you already have a game, and if you're looking for a style that will match, only prompting will not you get you there. So
Got it.
you
So
might as well train your model.
So if you're trying to build assets for an existing game and you want to put it in the game, you like the style
Yeah,
consistency
it will
is
never
really
match. It is
important.
never going to be approved by any art director, even yourself for that matter.
Hmm.
So it also depends on what are you working on. Are you working on in-game? Are you working on marketing? Are you working on just concept? It changes. But ideally, the most integrated that I've seen so far is if you have a really nicely trained model, even if it is not, no model is going to be 100%. So let's accept the fact that it is never going to be 100%. But what if an artist could sketch something, and then you put a sketch, and then that gives you multiple ideas. Even if you're not going to take that idea, you at least have ideas to talk about to the art director or any creative lead. Because most of the time, anyone who has worked in production, we know that we are always in crunch, we are always trying to get or finish on the deadline or hit the deadline. And that is where I was talking about, we need to neutralize the execution and more focus on the cognitive abilities of us.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it.
That's actually a great example of fitting in the workflow, right? So you mentioned that an artist will do a sketch first and then go to the AI to colorize it, to stylize it,
Yeah, so
and come up with a few.
give you a bit of a whole idea, because so we also need to understand that it's not just the artists who are in the in the overall system. You have PMs, you have game designers, you have UX, you have artists, you have developers. So a lot of time, because artists, their skill set is so much in diving into the details and getting that quality and really having that emotional touch to it, we might lose track of what is expected.
Right.
Where you don't want to spend a week or 2 weeks and then identify, hey, this was not the idea that will resonate with our peers. So it's
Right.
always good to have that initially, get that initial direction, and then you guys can, put whatever you want on top of it.
Has that been, so Oliver and Gayatri, you're a little different from Shrungar in that sense that, like you're more on the product side of things, right? Has AI helped you communicate more easily with your art teams in some ways?
Interestingly enough, there's enough synthetic generation out there that you can really pluck out any image you want without having to generate it now. Like we just go on Midjourney's website and be like, surely somebody has generated this in the past. Oh, they have.
Someone made a car, yeah.
It looks actually better than, so I don't actually, so a lot of the iteration, even on generation, can be shortcut by just following what other people have generated, which saves you a lot of time. You just have something like that, and then they'll build it. Yeah, but I think on the product side though, in terms of adoption, I think was where we started. Yeah, it's I do agree. You need somebody on your team to be the czar, I guess, of.
So you need a champion basically on the...
And usually in a small company, it's usually the CEO just has to figure out the problem and then tries to spread the wisdom. Because if you just try and sprinkle, give the mandate, just use Midjourney, and because that's what my VCs told me to tell you, sorry, go figure it out yourself. It usually just ends up a frustrating experience for everyone. Because you end up with, generation of some art here, then the tech art team are what am I supposed to do with this thing? It's not layered up, it's not chopped, it's, there's no transparency layer, WTF, and then, then it goes so it puts more work on the tech art team, in other words, takes some work off over here, puts some more over here. So as the czar has to go and work out that problem, okay, we've saved some time over here, how do we solve it on the next step? So what we found is okay, Midjourney's fine for JPEGs or whatever, not good for PNGs, so take that over to Firefly and Photoshop. Oh, look, this has a generative remove and fill, so now you can chop stuff up easy, and once we chop stuff up easy, we can rig it, right? At least 2D animation, that sort of workflow. And then we started actually saving some time, but you need one person to kind of work out that flow, and it's better to work it out without good art first, just as a non-artist can actually try these tools, and if it works for you, then it should work for everybody. That's my advice on driving the adoption. But it really is banging your head against a wall till you figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, that theme is coming out a little bit, isn't it? Because on the one hand, we say, hey, AI is going to help you speed things up. It's going to help you with production. But then you also hear a lot of stories about frustration, where, okay, I'm trying to get it to draw this thing, and it refuses to do that.
Try and make one sprite sheet. That is the first challenge. Just make a sprite sheet that you can put in your game. And if you can crack that workflow, then at least for 2D games, that works. That will inform a lot of other things.
Got it. And so it sounds like there is some effort that at least one person on a team has to put up front before the team is actually comfortable using these tools. Because otherwise they're all just like, okay, what is this? Like, why should I just not continue doing what I was doing before?
Yeah. Our art director, like he mostly spoke Tamil as well. So when we gave him Midjourney, he was like, he only knows English.
So language is another, language is another barrier. I mean, most language models, at least now, start to understand beyond just English, but yeah, like back in the day when, Midjourney and DALL-E were popular, it was mostly English. So that would have been a barrier too. In your case, Gayatri, how did you convince your team to put in so much effort? Like, what happened on the first day when you picked up AI and you were frustrated with the results? And then how did you go from there to, hey, this is worth spending some time and investing in?
So as Oliver and Shrungar mentioned, basically most of these tools lack, the flexibility, or, they're not much easy to use. Each tool has its own problem, or each tool has, certain benefits.
What are like maybe one or two examples of that?
So one thing, if I have to mention, maintaining the consistency throughout the project to have the cohesive look across the project is very much difficult. Though you train or, upload so many images, give multiple prompts and do multiple iterations, okay, you might get one image or one screen or something, but again, it'll go off track. So I think over the time, this would, get better is what I think.
Got it. And so you did that, and you managed to get it to draw consistent images. And that's when your team was also like, okay, this is useful.
So that's what we figured it out, how to get what we want.
Yeah. And Shrungar, I think you did some work on this too, right? In making sure that a model is giving you consistent images. How much work is that? Like, can a common man do it?
In terms of server work or man work or what?
Well, manners. Let's assume the bosses are willing to pay for the GPUs and the computation.
Oh, I was glad that my boss paid for all the GPUs. So the first thing that we'll need to do is focus. So even to point out, right, we need to have a person or a couple of people to dive into this. Then it's all about data set. And it's just ironical when artists are talking about data set. So we need to have a good data set which are close or the same of what is expected.
So like an art data set, meaning like a collection of images that is representative of
you can break it down for style or character or prop or whatever it is. Then technically, if you have a good server, it might do it in 1.5 days or something overnight. But if you have a really better server, you can do it better.
So it meaning like you're teaching the AI about your art style, basically.
I think we can also dive into this a bit, how training is done. It's if there are images and we need to describe those images. And most of the people, what they do is they describe the image the way, they use AI to describe the images. Ideally how we should, and that's called tagging. So the way you should do it is tag it in a way so that how your team would prompt. Because you would, let's say we are talking about, people not knowing English. The way Indians will prompt and the way Americans will prompt, the way artists from the UK will prompt are going to be very different.
Interesting.
Our vocabulary is different. So if you are going to describe the image or find a really fine line between describing the image but also describing it the way the user will describe, that means you'll have a high chance of a predictable model.
So you first give it images that are in the style that you want, and then you describe the images in
You tag it basically.
But you need to do it in a language that you would use, or your
team would use.
Or your
because
team would
you are
use.
not going to use it. Only you are not going to use it. Your
I
team is
see.
going to use it.
So let's say there's an image of a car driving on a highway. on a cliffside. So, like, you're saying that different people would describe that image.
Yep, people go all poetic when they are describing these images. Like
Like
wow,
a
car,
beautiful
a blue
cliff.
car, beautiful sun. Like, it will not work when you're training a model. It might, if you have tried Midjourney and all of these, the way you'll prompt, you'll get different, results. It's also because the way they are trained and how the prompts reflect that. But when and we are basically talking about how to use those images, especially in game. So we need to describe it the way our artists will describe it.
Right.
And the best thing is that because we have a lot of decent data set, you don't have to think about much of the quality. We'll be not talking about, hey, 2D style, small texture, XY, whatever it is. You have the model to predict decently of what the style is. Then the artist will more focus on the ideas, which should be the case.
So if you're an existing game with art, that makes sense, that you can teach the AI your style. But let's say, Oliver, you're prototyping a new game, or Gayatri, you're trying to test something in VR. So you don't have a lot of existing art assets then. Like, what has your experience been using AI for that kind of workflow?
Yeah, so this is where you really have to, where kind of language models fall down, because if describing a new art style is pretty tough. I mean, if you can imagine, I want this in the style of this or style of that, but where do you get the consistency? Because as soon as you change your prompt, like oftentimes if you're using an off-the-shelf model, the entire thing will change, right? So you have to use sort of a rudimentary form of a world model, which is, this is the gray box, and can you reskin this in this way, that way, right? And then iterate that way, so it's a lot faster than trying to get your game scene for the ad setup, because ads have to do some fundamental things, like tell people what the game is. Like, yeah. Also, it's a great point on how your game, like your game dev team describes the game versus a consumer describes the game. And your game team has to use more of the consumer language than their own internal design language. So I think this is where one of the learnings that we had to do was like really leverage those references of what your game is similar to in order to get the styles that you want.
To be able to consistently reproduce.
Even like other companies, is like, I just want it in the style of this company or Scopely, or I want it. I don't think that's plagiarism. The rules aren't clear on that, but for exploration purposes, I think it's all good.
Fair enough. As long as it's ideation and. And everything we've been talking about so far has been about images, still images, largely, right? I know, Gayatri, you've done some experiments on video as well. So what, you generated like moving images to be used as animations, or what was the?
So basically, we had to create high quality. 3D models and animations. So the tools itself, they support these 3D models and animations. So there'll be certain number of the kind of models that we can actually take it. But again, artists have to put their creative skill to get the actual output. So that first ideation has been done in one of the tool called Layer or some other thing. So for basic concept that have, for the ideation, we have cut down the time. You get the basic model and you work on it and then animate it.
Got it. And then the animation is being done as a video?
Yeah.
Got it. Interesting. And then you can use that directly in your like marketing or in your game.
Yeah, those are in the game, yes.
So we're moving from purely text to image and video as well.
Yeah. So one thing that I would like to add, so when Oliver mentioned about the language, yeah, that'll be there everywhere. So one of the things that we tried and actually it worked for most of us is, okay, no one can actually, keep typing, okay, I want this, and add all their creative thing for each and every asset. You have certain idea in your brain saying, okay, I want a person standing somewhere, in the evening setting, some breeze or rain, you need to have some traffic around, so whatever. So we tried putting that in ChatGPT and asked to, you are creating in Midjourney. Give me a prompt to generate this in Midjourney. And if I have to have some variations, okay, I try that. Okay, this is not what got it. Okay, I'll change something else. So you can just, you're talking to someone, you're giving some instructions, and that gives you the better output, and I can try it there instead of being sitting and doing.
So you're actually chaining together multiple AIs, basically. You're going to the first AI and saying, hey, I'm about to talk to this second AI. Can you tell me how to talk to it?
So
you
it's
give me
just,
a prompt then?
cutting down the time and being little smarter to get our things done, that's it.
Right, right. It's like, it's customer service, but it's like talking to AI, basically. Yeah, no, and the reason I asked about video was my next question was going to be, what are you guys excited about next for AI? So we've been talking primarily about text to image so far. What are some things that you're seeing now come out that are maybe not there yet, but you think will, like really change things in
How
the
far
next year?
out there can we go?
Go for it. Like,
I think, in some steps, I would say just gray box to image is a great step forward. I think for gaming, we're all. I think everyone in this room has probably gray boxed something at some time or another just to get the thing out. And I think games will provide, I've sort of touched on this before, but a great world model for the AI to generate something on top of. And without the world model, the AI just kind of behaves a bit randomly. Just compare two things. Like if you see the Minecraft generated game that has been released on the web, you should check it out. But there's no consistency when you turn around. It's like, okay, you're in plains,
Right.
then you're in the desert, then you're in a cabin, and every time you turn, it's different. But once you have a AI filter on top of a footage of Minecraft, then you have consistency, and now you can make everything ice cream or everything Lego or whatever you want. And I think what's really exciting is when that becomes real time. So your artist can just gray box, and in real time, you can just stylize it however you want.
right.
I think that's a little bit on the extreme end of that. Just applying those realistic filters to kind of even just semi-high polygonal models, then you get all of a sudden totally photorealistic human models.
Right.
And you imagine photorealistic Command and Conquer RTS, isometric games, and I think that's really exciting. It's just not real time. Using AI, you see how it does volumetric lighting really well.
Right. So you're saying physics and reasoning is a big problem today, and
that's the part that games solve. Yeah.
Right, right. So until AI can figure out physics and reasoning better, you want this intermediate thing where the artist is drawing the gray box and then...
Actually, I'll go so far to say the next big game engine, nobody will see it. It'll just be in the background of some AI as its world model.
Just generative AI generating the whole world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Shrungar, what are you excited about? 3D or animation or...
So I started this purely because I should have one button that I'll press, a lot of money will fall so that I can talk philosophy and human behavior.
I mean, we all want that. Yeah.
That was my dream to dive into this. But I think realistically, the most important aspect that I'm really looking forward to is how human behavior is changing with the devices that might come up with. So that is one. And then how would we design games based on that? So last year when I was here, we were just talking about, I've been to multiple AI discussions and at least talks. Where we are right now, I couldn't predict it. So even if I say maybe that one press button would be next year for me, I would really love it. But the way I'm looking at it is, how would not just game development, but how would team structure change? How would the roles change? Will there be a combination between, or will there be a bridge between art and game designers? Because I don't believe the way we have the structure of functions will follow. Because we are talking about multi-agents. We are talking about outcome-driven ideas. We are talking about human-centric. We are talking about user behavior and user themselves. The more we go forward with this, I think it will be more user-centric and less on the means. So I am really looking forward to, within 2 years or 3 years, the structure to be changed of how we build games, how customer success will come way before product management and research. Because right now, if you see the structure of how a company is, we build a game and then we have customer support, will have the feedback, and then we try to get into things. But is there a way that we can have the customers in front and then we build games? and really merge roles and ideas. So I think that is something that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I think you're saying like the tech sort of democratizes the ability to build a game, right? It
That's-
opens it up to more people.
Of course, and we usually think that ideas and roles will dissolve, but that's not going to happen. I think it will evolve. I am really looking forward to the world that is going to happen. So I think we are in. I have made my career based out of internet, smartphones, app store, and mobile games, and I'm lucky for that. I'm just curious to know what next.
To see what AI unlocks,
It's
yeah.
going to be a fantastic world.
Yeah, Gayatri, what about you? I know you've done VR experiments. Like, which part of this tech is most exciting to you going forward in the next few years?
I think everything would be a new thing and everything would be, surprise to us, I think.
At
We don't
this
know, we
point.
cannot predict it.
Like, who knows what's going to...
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember the exact quote, but I think it was Gates who was like, you overestimate what will happen in the next year and you underestimate what's going to happen in the next 10 years, right? So,
Right.
so your stance is who knows what's going to come out in a year from now?
Yeah.
Will we just like slap a headset
But
and...
I think this real-time collaboration, that would be there for sure. So, so basically this AI will collaborate with the artist, they give the input, say, okay, I want this, and then it will speed up the process. That'll
Got
be there
it.
for sure.
So you're saying it'll be a much more natural interface between artists
Yeah.
and AI than it is today?
Yeah, like
And-
two artists, as they do it together, they're working together on a certain project. It's just that they need to have the tool, understand the tool, and know how to use it.
And I think, Shrungar, you were touching upon this too. You're talking about multi-agents, right? Like letting a game designer talk to an artist, let an artist talk to a product manager.
I have read an article about a CEO, which is an AI in China last year. So when we talk about those ideas, we really dive into that rabbit hole of what are the possibilities.
Right.
And that's the reason we are talking about how would the structure be, what will the rule be. I think that is very interesting. And I think as leaders, and not just as leaders, we as individuals, we should dive into what are the possibilities because it is going to happen. And really embrace it and then see, how we can be a part of that change and we can nudge that change. I think that's going to be very interesting.
At least as a group, we seem to think like we should use it as a multiplier.
I think we have a moral responsibility to do that. So more than we being a part of the win, we should be the people who are, rowing the sail or whatever how you say it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm sure a lot of folks in the audience agree with that as well. We'll find out soon. So quick time check. I think we are close to like, what we wanted to talk about, right? And we do want to open it up to questions and see what people thought, like what we haven't touched upon. I don't know how we've been doing this. Do we just ask people to raise their hands and pass
Were
the
we
mic
audible,
around?
by the way?
Do we have someone around to pass the mic along? If not, I'll do that. Okay, questions. Who wants to go? We do have someone. I think
Yeah, hello. Thanks for the great talk. Just wanted to ask Oliver, as he mentioned about using AI for marketing, like sometimes we also get like very short deadlines to create illustrations for marketing. Like the marketing head will just come and say, hey man, I need this stuff. Like a full-blown splash just for marketing, but then they use scenario AI. But the thing which we use is sometimes AI messes up the hands and eyes. So sometimes what we do is we generate 10 different images and photo bash using the AI itself and paint over. So do you have anything else to add to it, or how do we enhance the approach?
I mean, other than like using infill, bashing it together is probably the best. It's a bit like I mean, there are other techniques to automate the bashing, a bit like if you're familiar with Gaussian blurs and things like that. You can do that with multiple images to combine them into like a... But, the tools still aren't that as good as you doing it themselves. So, but I think that's where this will eventually end up. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry. But I feel sorry for you, though. Yeah. I know the feeling.
For what it's worth, there are features now that fix hands and faces as well.
Yeah.
So it's getting better
So the
every
thing
day.
is, like,
Just wait.
the amount of time we'll go researching, we are like, fine, just give it, we'll paint over that stuff and we'll fix
You
it.
should tell your marketing manager that the technology is coming and he should be patient.
I'll sure
This
convey
campaign
it.
has to wait.
I'll sure.
In my experience, leave the AI. Even artists do not know how to draw hands, by the way.
Shots fired. It's a good thing.
I'll take it personally.
The reason I can say because I have been an artist, so I can owe this.
I know. I was going to say you're the only one that could have said that and gotten away with it on this panel.
I'll recommend you 100 days of drawing hands.
Thanks for the recommendation. I'll start with horses.
By the way, we just got into a small bet right now. Who is going to get the first question? And I won $100. By the way, thank you for it.
Wait, $100? Why was I not part of this action? Anyway,
Polymarket.
we have someone in the back.
Actually, hello everyone. I came in late, but anyway, I wanted to ask a question. The question is about using AI-generated arts in games. So our company just released a game a few months ago. So the theme of the game is we'll play a pretty simple block game, and then we'll get some puzzle pieces, and it merges automatically to become an artwork, and we put that in our gallery and things like that. So is it okay if we use AI-generated images for the collection and in the gallery and all things like that? If not,
You're the expert on this. But
I don't know if I'm the expert, but I can, yeah, I think your thumb rule is anything you draw shouldn't be someone else's IP, right? Like that's true whether you use AI or not. Even if you're just using Photoshop to make art for your game, you can't put Mickey Mouse in your game. Is there anyone from Disney here?
Now you can. It's public domain.
no, but sometimes
Now
AI
you can.
just scrapes
Public
some
domain.
small.
Right. And I think that rule is true whether you use AI or not. And so that's sort of what I've been hearing from artists is, yes, sometimes AI will draw things that maybe are not yours, but that's where, I don't know if you got the part where Shrungar was talking about fine-tuning your own models. So when you teach the AI your own art style and your own IP, it stops doing that. Like it'll only do like your art content. So I think as long as you're doing that and everything you're shipping is yours, your IP, your creative content, that's been my what I've heard.
yeah, the rule of thumb we follow is so long as somebody cannot mistake your game as somebody else's game, right? So like somebody can't think that your game is a Disney game by accident by the stuff that you get. So just use that as your guiding star and you should be all right. But that doesn't protect you from unintended lookalikes that you may not even be aware of. So
yeah, and I think again that's where training your own model it's worth the investment. It makes sure that you're not accidentally copying someone else's art style. And it's becoming easier and easier to do that too. So, including yours truly's product. It's a shameless plug, but yeah.
Thank you. I was late, but thank you for the information.
Yeah, so we're using Comfy UI. I don't know if you're familiar with Comfy, but it's
Yep.
like an open source application that you can plug in lots of different types of tools, ones that are specifically looking at your face, and you can have multiple AI functions running parallel or one after the other. So this is an amazing way to get rid of all the problems with your hands, all the problems with your faces. It'll do outlines. There are amazing tools that you can get from Civet AI. You can just download the different modules and then add them to your long Comfy UI workflow. And you can use that and you can integrate those tools directly into your games. You can use those tools also to export geometry so that you can pull into MetaHuman, or you can add, solid geometry out. So I just want everybody to know that there are some just amazing tool sets out there that, and they're all open source and they're all free. So just definitely want everybody to know that, this something that anybody can do and anybody can put those workflows together on your current PC. And the other thing is it gets you away from having to pay for Midjourney or Runway or Luma Labs or any of the other tools that are out there. So these are really good tools to use. Just wanted a heads up on that.
We'll check that out. Sounds awesome.
So I think actually that's a great point, right? So we have also dived into Comfy UI. The challenge with Comfy UI is it is very tech centric. And maybe if you're a tech artist, you might dive into this. We are talking to people who just know Photoshop. And even if it's a great tool for you to plug it, and you can really power it with awesome GPU and then directly plug it in the game, the approach is different. You know, you'll use a certain tool for a certain reason, and it has a lot of flexibility, but it also has limitations. So if you're going to use Comfy UI, if you're going to explore and if you want one thing to be done properly, you can really tweak it and you'll reach there. But how do you use that and give it to 50,000 people across the board and who are trying to who have different tasks, who have different timelines, and who are working on different things altogether. So it's a fantastic tool if you want to explore and really understand, and if you're really techie. But I'll definitely support that. It's just that you use it for a certain kind of a business case, I would say.
So what we do is we have the pipeline team develop the workflow, right? And then we basically give the artist like a cross-section, a window into the tools that they need and their part, and then it hands off to the next tools for the next artist. So that's kind of the way we handle that. So we don't just give them the whole giant Comfy UI flow, we give them pieces.
We also have Comfy UI plugged into the Slack bot that we have. The only problem is that the investment in really defining those to get, if you train a model, you will reach, let's say, 60% or 70%. But even if you use Comfy UI, it will reach, 80 to 90%. So the time that you spend to really refine that, it doesn't make sense for most of the game teams, right? So if you're just trying to explore, it really makes sense. But I would rather train 50 models than to have 2 models or 3 models or a workflow.
Yeah, I think the meta point here is there's something for everyone. So depending on what you're looking for, like all the way from base stable diffusion to using Comfy UI for workflows, or to using off-the-shelf tools like Midjourney. There's just like a whole range of them for all kinds of use cases. Who wants to go next? Any more questions? There's someone here in the front. He's bringing the mic for you.
Yeah, a very basic question I would like to ask, that AI is to reduce a cost or it enhance quality as well? And additionally, one more question I would like to ask, that using AI in IP-based games, it is very difficult, right? I mean, if we are working for Disney, or suppose if we are working for WWE, so I can't use AI for them because they won't approve it. So any thought on it?
Yeah, we do take IP, but I don't know if I can answer that properly. So it all depends on what kind of company you're having. Now, let's say that you're a small company, and then you pay a lot, or you really, your game is going good. You'll use AI so that you can increase the cadence. Logically speaking, that is how you should be. Quality is subjective, this is what I would say, because I've spoken to teams which do not have great quality in terms of the visual design, but they want to train models with that quality, which they don't have. So I would rather not use the existing art data set, and I would better it so that I can deliver better experience. So it also depends on what are you trying to approach and what are you trying to solve. There's some companies probably want to reduce the cost or increase the bottom line. Over there, they might have a strategy where they'll use AI so that they can then save some money. So it all depends on how the leaders are looking into things, how teams are looking into things, and how individuals are looking into things. So there's a I don't know if I answered it, but it all depends on what you're expecting and what your intentions are.
So I could add to that. So you asked, okay, will that actually cut down or, you know? So basically when we have a team of say 10 people working on one thing and you try for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, you release it or check a prototype, okay, that doesn't work. But you have bunch of ideas and you have this AI tool, then three people, you can try, you know, a bunch of prototypes at a time. 3 might fail, 1 might be successful. So there, instead of cutting down, you can actually try more. It's not only about cutting down, it's actually enhancing our work and it is helping us in ideation. So how we take is what it depends on.
I think the hypothesis that we spoke about, right? You know, it gives you multiple hypotheses. Ideally, a good company should have a small section of research team. So ideally, what teams or companies should do is use AI so that they can deliver the cadence, carve out bandwidth, and put that bandwidth into other kind of researches or other kind of development. Ideally, that would be really beneficial because how many games comes out? What is the shelf life of a game? What is the cycle of the game? So let's say that my game is just got hit, and then it will be there for, let's say, hit as for 5 years, 6 years. But imagine if I'm going to save bandwidth of 20-30%, I can use that for another game, another idea. So I think ideally that should be the ideal approach. At least I would take that approach.
So it sounds like it's both a time saver, but also like an idea multiplier. Is like that's what Gayatri you were. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we're encroaching on the next group's time.
Can I just ask one more?
You're kicking us off?
Okay, yeah, we were delayed by 15 minutes too,
Not
but
our fault.
we'll wrap it up now. So what we'll do is the panel will just hang around here, like right outside the room, so we can take more questions one-on-one. Thank you so much for being here. It was really great, getting this opportunity. And apologies to the next people as well for.
Thanks for being patient.